Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Fun show today. Jeff Hem, the play-by-play voice of the Nashville Sounds, will join us at 10:30. Plenty of Titans talk today. And we got Dr. Crane sitting in with us. Thanks for coming in early today, doing a little double duty on the station today.
Yeah, anytime. I'm a morning guy, so this is great.
Right. You're always up at like 4 a.m.
Crack of dawn, baby.
You know.
Before the chickens.
Right. Yeah, you don't even have to wait for the rooster to crow. You're already awake. Going to be a good show today. Again, Jeff Hem going to join us at 10:30. Going to talk some baseball. We never talk baseball on the station. I mean, I get it. There's no pro baseball team here, but we're going to talk some baseball, some Sounds. The Brewers have the best record in baseball with a lot of former Sounds on their team, including All-Star Jacob Mizorowski, who spent a lot of time in Nashville this year. We'll also look around the world of baseball during that hour as well. We are going to hit on the Jeffrey Simmons and Cam Ward scuffle coming up in the next segment, but we have to open the show with the article that just came out this morning. Jeremy Fowler and Teron Davenport, our own Teron Davenport, coming out with an article, a very well-written article. I've skimmed as much of it as I can since getting to the station about 30 minutes ago. And it is a long piece about the Titans trying to avoid the same mistakes that the Panthers ran into with Bryce Young and the Bears have already run into with Caleb Williams. And mainly, it's about having a head coach in place and firing him during the first season of a rookie quarterback's career. But the nugget that has been really circulating, and actually it was funny, I was on my way in here and I got a buzz on my Apple Watch and I saw the words Titans fire Callahan, and I was very confused for a second. And I saw it said Titans considered firing Brian Callahan at the end of last season. Here is the exact quote from the story, again from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler and our own Teron Davenport. There was consideration given to completely cleaning house and sending Callahan on his way along with Carthon. Multiple Titan sources confirmed Callahan and Carthon had a close relationship, and having the number one pick gave Tennessee an opportunity to bring in a new general manager, coach, and rookie quarterback at the same time. But the front office took an honest look at the talent on the roster and factored that into Callahan's record in his first season. The front office didn't lose sight of Callahan being one of the league's in-demand coaching candidates when the Titans hired him. So, the Titans, they considered cleaning house, which I know was a popular idea around here after a 3-14 season. I am a guy, and if you've listened to this show, listened to me before, I am on the give Brian Callahan a chance train. Like, let's not fire him before he even coaches a real game this year. But if you actually considered firing him, if it was a legitimate conversation of, do we keep him, do we not, you should have fired him.
Yeah, I mean, on the weekend show, before the transition, I even told you like 1-4, 1-5, Callahan's gone. And to that point, you look at the whole situation here. Like you said, if you had the thought and you want to clean house in total, do it. Because the reason why they didn't pull the trigger is somebody, maybe it was Chad Brinker and or whoever else in the front office, like, you know what, maybe we have something here. Because if we get rid of Callahan, we get rid of his dad. I feel like you clean shop.
Well, I mean, yeah, Bill's not staying on staff without Brian.
That's what I'm saying. And
we made the joke of if they fire Brian, one of the only guys with NFL head coaching experience is Bill. Does he become the interim head coach?
Oh, boy, that'd been rough. I mean, but you think about it, though. Like, if you get rid of Brian, you get rid of Bill, the offensive line is back to square one. You're still looking for a left tackle. I don't know if this decision was before or after signing of Dan Moore.
It would have been probably right at the end of the season. Right when they fired Carthon, they probably would have fired Callahan, too. So I think it was all would have been in one fail swoop. They would have gotten everybody. But if you had that thought, that means you aren't completely bought in on him. And if you're not completely bought in on him, that is the easiest way to stunt a quarterback's growth. Bryce Young, we've seen him at least try and dig out of it with Dave Canales, but he got benched for a while there before he came back. Caleb Williams, he was fine last year. He took 68 sacks, but they've improved the offensive line. They've gotten him more weapons. I mean, you took Colston Loveland and Luther Burden with your first two picks in the draft. So if Caleb Williams isn't good this year, the blame's going to start to fall on him.
By the way, they looked great in the preseason game.
They did.
Him and Colston Loveland, really just him throwing to the tight ends in general. Looked awesome.
So, I mean, Caleb Williams, it's too early, but everybody knew that keeping Matt Eberflus was a mistake because he wasn't going to help develop Caleb Williams.
No. I mean, you look at Caleb Williams, he already had all the intangibles, and like to what Parker just said, throwing to all the tight ends. I mean, it's a quarterback safety net. So, I mean, you look at that offense when you can't really flourish in the whole entire scheme and you just deviate to one player. I got to show you it's more on the coach than the player.
Here's more from the Jeremy Fowler and Teron Davenport article that, again, the bombshell, if you want to call it a bombshell. I don't know if this is actually like big news because I'm sure at the end of a 3-14 season, there's always some sort of consideration about the head coach. But the way they're putting it is that, yeah, I mean, cleaning house was an actual possibility. But here's what Chad Brinker told ESPN. We wanted to give him that opportunity to grow as a head football coach. We felt another year to grow into that, and we're going to need to see that growth. We believe in Brian, and we think he's going to get there. That's why he was retained. And here is more. The sense on the ground during Tennessee's training camp is that Callahan is well supported and that modest progress could be enough to keep his job beyond this year, depending on how that progress looks. So that's kind of what I've been saying is that the win total, it has to be better. You can't go 3-14 again. But there are different ways that a 6-win season could look. There could be a 6-win season where Cam Ward is just meh, and you maybe luck into a couple of wins here and there against bad teams, and you get blown out by the good teams. Or you could go 6-11, where Cam Ward looks really good, but the team just isn't quite talented enough to win games late against some good teams. So I agree with that modest progress could be enough to keep Callahan, depending on how that progress looks. But it's concerning to me that Amy was close to pulling the trigger and gave him another chance. You wonder if, I know the joke around here is, if you're 1-5 heading into the Patriots game and you get blown out, you could get fired. If she was considering it last year, there's a chance she actually would do that.
Well, I go back to the John Robinson interview with Chase McJoe a while back. I mean, even John said it after the Eagles game, no notice. It was gone, just like that. So, you make a great point there, Jake. After the Patriots game, if they get blown out, more than likely I could see Amy Adams-Strunk just pulling the trigger.
I mean, that's the issue is that with this owner, you know that some of those personal losses can lead to rash decisions. They may say that the Eagles game wasn't the exact reason why John Robinson was fired. Now, obviously, there was an accumulation of bad decisions that led to that. But Amy Adams-Strunk sitting in a box in Philly, having fans yell thank you to her as A.J. Brown spanked the goalpost after scoring what would have been his second touchdown if it didn't get called back. The reason John Robinson got fired, the straw that broke the camel's back was that game. And I feel like if Brian Callahan gets off to a slow start, which would be easy to do with the schedule laid out the way it is early in the season, and Mike Vrabel comes in here to Nashville and lights you up, that might be it. And Cam Ward then is 7 games into his rookie season and has to adjust to a whole new head coach.
Exactly. And also about the whole firing thing when it comes to the Patriots game, if that does get out of hand, I'm confident, just in my gut feeling as usual, Chad Brinker would be out the door as well. Yeah, and the reason why I say that is because I go to Joe Dubin's comment. He asked, can this team you put on the field win the Super Bowl? The one person that chuckled was Chad Brinker, and the other one that was Mike Borgonzi was pretty serious about answering it the correct way. And to me, I don't know, it just seems like a lack of maturity with Chad Brinker. I know he's in a high position as the president of football operations, but to that quote there in that whole entire article, to me, giving him that modest option of the slow progression, for me, that was Brinker talking Amy off the ledge.
Yeah.
That's just how I interpret it.
That's a great point.
That is a
I
good
was sitting
point.
right there when it happened. And Mike Borgonzi, serious as you can be, Chad Brinker was chuckling. He chuckled twice. So that was a good point by you.
More from the article. Last little quote here from Jeremy Fowler and Teron Davenport. Mike Borgonzi says, I'm really not big into expectations. I want to see growth. I want to see competition and discipline and start to come together as a team. Are we getting better? All of this is easy to say in August. November and December are when an owner's patience will be tested if the season has taken a disappointing turn and fan apathy is cutting into the bottom line. The pressure is also on Ward, but he's confident he'll be unfazed by it and believes his coach will be right there in his corner. And we have seen Cam Ward last week. He came out and defended Brian Callahan. We need to see growth from Brian Callahan. He was not good enough last year. His staff was not good enough last year. But I mean, he is the head coach right now. And I will say, seeing this article, I think if you thought about cleaning house, you should have cleaned house. You didn't do it. Now you have to back up Brian Callahan and hope that he's the guy to develop Cam Ward, because as they write in this article, Bryce Young and Caleb Williams both kind of had to waste their rookie season with a coach who wasn't the guy, and then they had to start over with a new staff and a new playbook and all this. You don't want that for Cam Ward. If it has to happen, it has to happen, but you'd love to have some stability if it makes sense.
Yeah, and Callahan does his press conferences the day after, or 24 hours after. For me, I look at that as an organizational thing of protecting his job, because if he responds immediately, I mean, minus, the Sunday games right after post-game press conference, minus that. But doing everything 24 hours after, to me, is the front office saying, hey, we're trying to protect our head coach.
Yeah.
And just saying, oh, we want to keep him around for a little bit so he can kind of mature as a head coach.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's almost like we have the training wheels on him right now, and we're trying to develop him as a real head coach.
Yeah, I think everybody is not a big fan of the pre-practice press conferences. Like, you'd love to hear what he thought about what just happened instead of, a day later. Like, there was the scuffle, which we're going to get into with Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons. Like, you would have loved to hear from Brian Callahan after that about what happened and what his thoughts were on both those players. But now he got a night to sleep on it and can kind of craft an answer, which we'll hear at 9:45. Again, we're going to carry that live. Lots of text on this. We'll stick with this for right now, and we will get to the Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons scuffle coming up. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Again, Jeff Hem from the Nashville Sounds is going to join us for an hour at 10:30. We will carry the Brian Callahan press conference live at 9:45. Sure, we'll get some reaction to the Big Jeff Cam Ward scuffle yesterday in practice. We will talk about that in a little bit, but do want to stick on this. Jeremy Fowler and Teron Davenport putting out an article today letting everyone know that Amy Adams-Strunk considered firing Brian Callahan at the end of last season and completely cleaning house. We'll stick with this. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Later today on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, the Nashville Sounds take on Louisville at First Horizon Park with the first pitch at 6:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. We will be joined at 10:30 by the voice of the Sounds, Jeff Hem, and talk some baseball on the program. I love baseball. I love to give baseball some love. We're going to bring Jeff in, voice of the AAA Nashville Sounds for the best team in the majors, the Milwaukee Brewers. So going to be a fun hour. Nick Frazier is with me today. We did get a text. Eddie from California asked, why no TD on our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com? Yes, it is a Tuesday. I forgot to mention that off the top of the show. TD Tuesdays are still going to be happening, but the Titans practice schedule is not set in stone yet. Once we get to the regular season and they're practicing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, TD will be in on Tuesdays, but they are practicing in 40 minutes. So TD, he is the beat reporter for ESPN for the Titans. He has to be at practice. So no,
he's not a shapeshifter. He can't be everywhere.
Right. He can't be two places at once. So TD is out at practice today. He will be with us on Thursday this week. So not today, TD Thursday this week. But I believe starting next week, it should be consistent Tuesdays with TD. So no worries. TD will be with us this week, just a little later because of the Titans practice schedule. We are going through TD's article along with ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. The main purpose of the article is to talk about the last two first overall picks, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, some of the mistakes that have been made, and comparing it to the situation Cam Ward is in. But the big nugget that came out of it is that the Titans did consider firing Brian Callahan at the end of the season. And we were talking about how maybe he is on more thin ice than we thought. Joey from Bellevue on our text line says, if the owner fires the coach, should the Titans lose against the Patriots, the owner needs to take a hard look in the mirror. She was the one that made the call to fire Vrabel. She also let J-Rob trade away Brown. It's ignorant if she fires someone based on decisions she made. I mean, it's fair. It is fair. But the owner, like we've seen her decisions over the last couple of years. It's easy. I don't think she will do it because I think it would be too obvious. Like everybody's talked about this. If Callahan doesn't start well and he loses to Vrabel, he's gone. I think she knows that would look petty. So I don't know if she would do it, but I wouldn't put it past her.
I was about to say I wouldn't put it past her either. If the Titans lose by 30 and or 24, honestly, 24 or more for me, Callahan's gone against the Patriots. I really do think so. And I think Borgonzi's with them.
Borgonzi.
Brinker.
I was going to say, man, that would be a real quick trigger.
Brinker. Excuse me about that. Brinker. Yeah.
Bob asks, is the reverse true? If the Titans blow out the Patriots, does Callahan get an extension despite maybe being 1-5? Yeah, maybe. Is it like some college football fan bases will say like, we could go 1-11, but if we beat our rival, it's a successful season. Is that what it is? Like Callahan could go 1-17, but if he blows out the Patriots or 1-16, then he gets to keep his job.
I think it's more of Amy and Brian are going to have a good phone call on Mondays because they used to have like phone calls at 3 p.m. on every Monday. So maybe they still do that. Maybe they have tea this time instead of, coffee.
Texter on our text line 9777 says, with this article coming out about Amy, it just makes the Titans look even more dumb than they are. Why wouldn't they fire him if she was already considering it? When she does fire him, it's just going to ruin Cam's development. And we all know she's just waiting on Mike Vrabel to come in here and put BTA to have a reason to fire him. Yeah, it's fair. I mean, that's my question too. I've said it that we see all these texts and we get all these calls about Callahan's horrible, fire Callahan. It's like, all right, it's not even week 1 of the regular season yet. Let's give him a chance. He is the head coach of the team still. That's not going to change. They're not going to fire him before the season starts. But it does concern me that they gave serious consideration to letting him go and then brought him back and still took a quarterback number 1 overall. Like, you've got to have everybody on the same page. There has to be symmetry across all 3 levels, the front office, the coaching staff, the roster. Like, it's all got to work together. And right now it's like, all right, you got Borgonzi on one timeline, Brinker's on another timeline. It seems like Brinker may be immune to any of this. You got Callahan on the hot seat compared to everybody else. And then you've got a rookie quarterback you picked number 1 overall. It's like the timelines just don't match up. I'd love to see some symmetry across this. And if Callahan does show that he's improved, then I think maybe you'll get that. But you did see the Bears. They fired Eberflus. They could have cleaned house with Ryan Poles, but instead they extended him and committed to, all right, Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles. That is our core moving forward with Caleb Williams. I'm not saying they should extend Callahan, but I'm saying you do need to get some sort of everybody is on the same page working towards the same goal, because right now Callahan's priorities are different than everyone else's priorities, because Callahan's trying to save his job while Brinker and Borgonzi, they feel safe. They're trying to build for the future, and that doesn't line up.
I think the best way for Callahan to find some symmetry, like you're talking about, and or just Titans in general, is for Callahan. I think he's starting to do this a little bit. We've seen that. I'll use the Jeffrey Simmons scuffle example here in a second. But, for Callahan, I think he needs to delegate a lot of his responsibilities, because, calling plays, being a head coach, kind of looking at the defense for the most part, you're overseeing everything. I think if you can delegate that to some of your assistant coaches, it'll ease more pressure off of his shoulders and actually focus on being a true head coach and developing Cam Ward. I think that's primarily what's what's kind of blocking his vision right now, is there's too much on his plate.
Right. We said last year that he looked in over his head at times. It looked like it was a lot for him to try and be the head coach and the play caller, because he had never done either before. He's had a year under his belt. He's got to show that he can juggle all of that. Or, like you said, hire somebody who can take stuff away from him. Like, I use Vanderbilt as an example. Clark Lee lost 10 games in a row in 2023. And I get college and pros not exactly the same. He brought in Jerry Kill, who Jerry Kill was like, I'm going to be the CEO of this program, and I can be the guy who makes sure everybody else is doing their jobs. You can go be a football coach.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? They went 7-6 the next year. Maybe there's something like that needs to happen. He brought in Mike McCoy, who's kind of an analyst. Maybe that helps. Maybe he relies more on his dad. Maybe he gives more to Denard Wilson and Nick Holz, although they're inexperienced too. Like, he can't handle all of it. He's got to be able to spread those responsibilities out.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I mentioned earlier about the Jeffrey Simmons situation, the scuffle with Cam Ward. Last season when Jeffrey Simmons was, not thrown out of practice, but, he took his helmet off and all that stuff, was in a big scuffle, and Callahan didn't do anything. There were no repercussions from that. This year, obviously, it's the number one overall pick, rookie quarterback, but he was escorted off the field when he took his helmet off. So I think as a head coach, he's learning from his own mistakes from the year prior and looking into the future, saying, you know what, this is my job. I have to assert my dominance if I want to keep it.
It's fair. I think we can end our conversation on this, at least for now. We might get back into this later in the show. Devin and Dixon. Amy Adams is so annoying. She makes moves on a whim faster than a fart disappearing in the wind. This team is in the shape it is because of decisions she has made and no one else. What a way to put it.
That was great.
I don't know if that's the way I would have put it, but I mean, it's fair enough. And I think Amy Adams has proven she can be a good owner. She was a good owner until the John Robinson decision. And there was a text here, and Bob said it. Let's be honest, firing John Robinson was the right decision. Timing may be weird. Yes, that's the point I'm making. Firing John Robinson was probably the right decision. He had 3 horrible drafts in a row. But to fire him when you're 7-5 and in first place in the division maybe didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I think that's where things have changed. I think she needs to make a concerted decision to either you clean house and get rid of Callahan and start over, or you stick with him and commit to him as the guy who's going to develop Cam Ward. And you got to make that decision. And it seems like she at least wanted to give Callahan a chance. Don't fire him if things don't go well in the first month.
Yeah. And I wonder if there's a scenario out there, Jake, where Callahan keeps his job, but Brinker's out the door along with the other GMs they hired this past offseason. Because to me, you talk about symmetry and direct line of communication. If I'm Amy Adams Strunk and I look at the rest of this organization, I look at it, I'm like, wow, there is no direct line of communication. It goes through 6 different people before it gets to the head coach.
Well, they Brinker in this article actually has a quote that explains all of it.
Oh, please.
In this article from Jeremy Fowler and Teron Davenport that we're reviewing right now here on Next Man Up. Quote, our structure is unique, but it's not abnormal, Brinker said. The way we're structured is that Amy wanted a football executive, so I report to Amy. Mike reports to me, and the head coach reports to Mike. If there is some sort of dispute that we just can't resolve, we're going to get in the room, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to work through it together. So it is a direct chain, Amy, Brinker, Borgonzi, Callahan.
Throw up. Just absolute throw up. That is disgusting. It needs to be a direct line of communication. Amy, Borgonzi, head coach.
Yeah, the Brinker thing is weird. It really is. Like, it seems like he was part of a lot of these bad decisions that have gotten the team to where it was, but it seems like he isn't held accountable for any of it. And it feels like he's the guy who has the most job security right now.
It's like he's the spokesperson for Amy Adams Strunk.
Right.
That's exactly what he is.
And we don't hear from Amy anymore. So
again,
very, very interesting. And if you want to check out the article, it's on ESPN. We might get back into it a little bit more, but Teron Davenport, Jeremy Fowler put out this article. The title is Have Titans Learned from Caleb Williams and Bryce Young Issues? Lots of great stuff in there. Towards the end is where you get the stuff on some of the structural stuff or issues in the Titans organization.
It's just an employment name. That's all it is. I told this to Joe Dubin 2 weeks ago. These people that have their jobs that just have a random job, it's an employment name for them to collect a check. That's it.
Czar of football, or whatever, the president of football operations for Chad Brinker. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have thoughts, you can text or call. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Brian Callahan going to speak at the podium ahead of practice coming up in just about 15 minutes. We will bring that to you live when he is up ahead of today's padded practice out at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. When we come back, the big story of yesterday, Jeffrey Simmons, Cam Ward got into a little scuffle. We will talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. That was Teron Davenport yesterday on DVD, recapping what happened in the scuffle between Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons yesterday at practice. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Next man up 102.5 The Game. I can't stop myself from laughing, picturing Cam Ward walking up to Jeff Simmons and doing the Zombieland celebration just right in his face.
I love it.
I mean, I like the fire from Cam Ward, but also like probably unnecessary. But man, Jeff Simmons, I thought Paul Kaharski summed this up perfectly yesterday. He tweeted out like, one more thing on this and I'm done. Cam Ward wears a red jersey for a reason. And that is the only thing that matters in this is you do not touch the quarterback. I understand Cam Ward shouldn't have gone up and done that. Like it's a little disrespectful from Cam Ward. And I know that it's playful and I'm sure that Cam Ward meant absolutely no malice by it, but it was a little disrespectful. Jeffrey Simmons shouldn't have hit him. You don't hit the quarterback.
Yeah, but also too, I look at it as it's a good thing for this team because I'm quoting Ian on this, the low T Titans with their energy. I just think that this is perfect. This team has lacked energy the last couple of weeks.
Right.
I go back to Gentry Estes, his comment with Robbie and Rexford earlier today that, he said for the longest time, a lot of these people have been griping and moaning about this energy not being there. Now it's there.
Right.
Now you can actually capitalize off this. So I think going into week one after the finale of the preseason with the Vikings, this is a good thing. Maybe this does light a fire under, Jeffrey Simmons and Cam Ward's butt that they can produce at a higher level. That's probably what you need.
Right. That's the hope is that, you're right. We've been talking about how the Titans have no juice. The Titans have no energy. This shows some juice, maybe not the juice that you want. You don't want fights going on within your own team. But Jeffrey Simmons did tweet out last night, and I'll paraphrase here because some of it's not safe for radio. LOL, yeah, y'all doing way too much. It's practice. It's football. Stuff happens between the lines. But y'all letting these reporters blow up something that happened at practice says a lot. Trust me, me and one is good. I mean, I'm glad to hear from Jeffrey Simmons that, it wasn't anything serious. It's not a big deal. But to say, like, the reporters obviously are out there at practice and they see that happen, it's a big deal. That's your best player and your number one overall pick quarterback shoving each other, leading to a big scuffle at practice. Like, it is a big deal in terms of practice. It shouldn't be a big deal in terms of the long-term outlook of the team.
Yeah, and Jeffrey Simmons should know that he's talking about media's blowing this out of proportion. That's local media you're talking about. Remember, Cam Ward was the number one overall pick, bud. You're going to have national media covering this. That's why it's being blown out of proportion.
Adam Schefter tweeted out a link to its to TD's story about it.
Got a million views.
Yep.
I mean, come on now, Jeff.
So, if you're Jeffrey Simmons, don't push your quarterback in the face mask and expect that people aren't going to talk about it. Like, that is going to draw headlines. But I also understand what he's saying of like, we've seen the pictures, like Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons are going fishing together. And like, they've talked about how it's a big brother, little brother relationship. And they like going back and forth on the field. I'm sure there is absolutely no issue of like, Jeffrey Simmons hates Cam Ward and Cam Ward hates Jeffrey Simmons. It's heat of the moment on the practice field. But again, you have to know if you're Jeffrey Simmons, you do not hit the quarterback in any fashion. And I agree with TD in that clip. Callahan should have thrown him out of practice. And this is now 2 years in a row during training camp where Jeffrey Simmons has started a fight and not gotten thrown out of practice. I think the Brian Callahan doesn't hold people accountable story is overblown because I'm sure behind closed doors, and we've even seen it in front of the media, that Brian Callahan does get after his guys.
Right.
But that is a prime example of like, hey, man, that's a leader on your team who started a fight by hitting your number one overall pick quarterback after the play. Like, you got to do something. And I think he should have thrown Jeffrey Simmons out of practice.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that because I heard through another person that he did throw him out in a roundabout way. Jeff walked off the field with somebody else. I heard that yesterday, so I guess maybe he didn't. So that's yikes. I take back what I said about Brian Callahan developing as a head coach because then he's not really developing. So yikes.
It's one example, but that's 2 years in a row where it's like, hey, that's a leader on your team, and you could set an example and throw him out of practice, and you didn't. And last year, I remember they had the officials there, and they said that Simmons would have been thrown out in a game. Robert on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, asked, so what was Jeff exactly supposed to do? Just take it. I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, you don't hit the quarterback. It's that is the cardinal rule of practice is they're wearing the red jersey. You don't touch them. And I understand it was disrespectful. Cam probably shouldn't have gone up, shoved Jeffrey Simmons, and celebrated in his face. But you can't hit the quarterback. Like there is no exceptions to this. Like I understand that Cam was asking for it, but you don't do it even if they're asking for it.
You go shove an offensive lineman. You don't go shove Cam. Exactly. And I want to get to Jeffrey Simmons' tweet real quick, not to reiterate it.
No, you're good.
But the fact that he tweeted about the situation, and like you said about Callahan speaking about the situation, I think Jeff should have spoke on the situation after practice. Because when you tweet something, it only opens up to more speculation.
Right.
It doesn't clear the air. If you speak it into a microphone, that's going to clear the air immediately. And media's like, okay, we got the record straight. You did this, you did that. Okay, nothing else to talk about, and go on about your day. Whereas for Jeff, he tweets about it. All right, you're going to start ruffling feathers again. Simple as that.
I would have liked to hear from Jeff Simmons after practice, too. Apparently, he was escorted to the locker room after practice. So we will hear from Brian Callahan. He is getting ready to give his pre-practice press conference. We will bring that to you live coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025, The Game, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. We are waiting on Brian Callahan to step to the podium. We will bring you his pre-practice press conference whenever he is ready. Let's quickly go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam from Portland wants to chime in. Adam, good morning. Go ahead.
What's up, Jake, man? Hey, there's two sides to this, right? Number one, the situation, like if you're in a group of people and somebody does something, sometimes you can't avoid going over that line, right? You're not going to punk me in front of all these people. The same problem is that Jeff we're almost through a second contract with him, and he still has maturity issues like this. Like, he's so easy to break. Like, Cam, it's good that Cam's able to do this to defensive players because I expect him to do it during the season. He's so easy to break, though. Buck broke him. Like, anybody could break Jeff. Like, one tweet can send him over the edge. Like, I hate that our best player, which he's a great football player, but he had maturity issues when we drafted him, and he's the easiest guy on our team to break. That's the problem I got.
Yeah, it's a fair point, Adam. And we were saying during the break that if it was J.C. Latham, like the play before, TD was talking about how J.C. Latham was giving it to him after a long rushing touchdown from Julius Chestnut. If you want to hit J.C. Latham, it's not great. You shouldn't start fights. But if you want to hit J.C. Latham, go ahead. Like, J.C. Latham is 340 pounds. He can handle it. Don't hit the quarterback. Like, we got people on the text line saying, like, what should Jeff have done? It's like, don't hit the quarterback.
Just don't hit him.
It's that simple. Like, in practice, you do not hit your own quarterback. And I understand Cam asked for it. Cam was, he did not handle that situation right. And Cam, as we've heard, he's going to give it to you and he's going to trash talk. But you just don't do that. You don't hit the quarterback. Again, we were waiting for Brian Callahan to step to the podium. He is, I'm sure, going to address that pretty much right off the top. So we'll try and bring that to you as soon as he is ready to go. We're keeping an eye on it for you as the Titans are getting ready to hit the practice field for what I believe is their final padded practice of the week ahead of their final preseason game on Friday against the Minnesota Vikings. Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Seth wants to chime in on the Ward and Big Jeff scuffle. Seth, good morning. What you got for us? Seth, you there?
Hey, this is Dustin from Hopkinsville. You talking to me?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Dustin from Hopkinsville. Yep.
Hey, brother. Good morning. So everybody's taking this as a negative, and all I see is a damn positive. I mean, this team has had no juice. I take that rotten fruit and just squeeze the hell out of it to the core. We have juice. We have a quarterback that is fired up, and I've been the biggest critic of Cam, but I freaking love this. Big Jeff is not our leader. Quit talking about Jeff being the leader. He is there to smash people in the damn mouth on defense, and I love it. He sees something in Simmons, and he's going to bring it out of him. And this is going to carry over into the game because what they do in practice is what they're going to do in the game. And I'm seeing some positive, a lot of positive, nothing but positive. Y'all have a good day.
Yep. Thanks for the call, Dustin. I mean, it's I agree that, once you get to the regular season, you want Cam Ward to be, I'm fine with him talking smack to some people, but you do run the risk of getting hit. The good thing is, I think if Jeff Simmons would have done that in a real game after the play, it's probably a penalty.
That's 15 yards.
It's 15 yards. You hit a guy in the face mask like that, and maybe you get thrown out. I know you throw a punch, you get tossed. It doesn't seem like it was a punch. It seemed like it was just a little like nudge to the face mask. I mean, I'd like to hear what Brian Callahan has to say. And this is why we talk about, I'd love a post-practice press conference. I think that would allow us to get more clarity on these situations. And it's like, you're kind of allowing this story to get legs.
It's
because
festering, yeah. You
can't shut it down immediately. Brian Callahan, if he spoke after practice yesterday, or if Big Jeff spoke after practice yesterday, he could have come out and said, yeah, like tensions got high for a second, but it's all good. These things happen, all that kind of stuff. But you gave it almost 24 hours for us to come on here and talk about it. I'm excited to hear what Brian Callahan has to say, because that is maybe the two most important players on your team getting into it. If you put J.C. Latham in there, maybe the three most important players on your team. Brian Callahan is at the podium right now, getting ready to speak. Let's send it over to Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park.
Yeah. Not fully. We're gonna get through practice today, see where we're at. I do think the intent is to still play football a little bit with our starters. How much remains to be seen. That'll kind of be determined over the next day or two. But they definitely will be, most of those guys will play, and then there'll be a handful of select guys that we won't. But got to play a little more football.
Kelly, what is the plan with Legarius? Is there any hope that he can start working his way clear the physical this week, or what's the schedule looking for him?
Yeah, there's some hope that's the case. Maybe we'll see where he's at tomorrow. I think one more time, and then there's a chance that happens pretty soon. But I'm refraining from any definitive statements on it for the moment. But I'm hopeful that happens soon.
It seemed like your scuffle yesterday didn't match up with the sins that you've been preaching, the brotherhood stuff that you've been preaching, which you take on one unfolded.
Yeah, I think it was a training camp push and shove and a little bit of loud barking, and that was pretty much it. For me, it's late August, and we're ready to go play some real football, I think. And I think that's pretty standard back and forth in this point of training camp. So I didn't think too much of it. Guys got a little hot. Tempers flared, and we moved on. So I don't.
There's a red jersey on the quarterback not to know that he's not to be touched, not just in a play, but in a situation like that.
Oh, of course, you don't want the quarterback being touched. The flip side of it is the quarterback enters willingly into the fray like that, then that's on him as well. So he's got to not do that and enter himself into that spot. But yeah, we don't want a red jersey getting touched. So that's what it is.
When Jeff takes hands to his face in that moment, there are no consequences in that moment.
Yeah.
Is that special privileges for Jeff? Or
No.
Does that tell the defense anybody can take hands to Cam's face?
No, that's not at all. I mean, anything that we do when it comes to those types of things and conversations I've had with those guys are internal. I don't need to share any of them. But yeah, there's not really much more to add than that.
What would it take for you to discipline Jeff on the field and throw him off? You didn't last summer in a much more serious incident.
Yeah.
That seemed worthy of something in the moment to some of us. It seems
Sure.
like he has free reign.
That's not accurate at all. Look, I don't know where this throwing out of practice thing came from. It's pretty bothersome, to be honest with you. I've worked in the league for 16 years with a lot of really good head coaches, and I've never seen a player thrown out of a training camp practice for some pushing and shoving and some cuss words. So it doesn't register to me the same way. I don't know what it's like been before here or anything like that, but I've coached a long time, and I've been around training camp since I was 15 years old. And the amount of players I've seen thrown out of a practice is I can't even remember one that ever happened. So I don't know where that comes from. I don't know what that desire to see that happen comes from. I don't understand it. But Jeff he left the practice field after that play, just like we'd ask all our assistant coaches, if tempers get hot, take the guy off the field and cool him down, and practice ended 2 plays later. So I don't understand all that, but I think all my conversations with Jeff and the players involved and now that those are internal. And
Snead, for a minute.
Yeah.
You talked all along about how he has a plan and you guys are counting on him. Are you planning on him being in the lineup week 1 in Denver?
We'll see. I don't have any definitive timelines that I can pin that to. We're going to find out. A lot of that, even the return to practice part, as you've seen with veterans that we've had in with Quandre and now Lloyd working back in, there's a health standpoint where you're able to return to practice, and then there's the actual playing of football and the shape that you have to be in to go participate in a 70-play NFL game.
What kind of status do you expect him to have, having been out for so long? It's been probably 10 months.
Yeah, I mean, he's working to get back. He's working to get back in shape. I mean, he's been running and working every day here. It's not like he hasn't done anything. But the playing football part is the next step, and you have to be in that type of shape to go play in an NFL game, and we're working to get there.
Brian, I don't think that Cam's been touched in either of the first 2 games. What is your offensive line doing well right now?
Well, the preseason I take with a grain of salt as far as what that means for future performance and all that. But it's been good. I mean, we've done a good job up front. Those guys have played well. We've blocked well in the run game. The pockets have been not very disrupted. I mean, we've had chances to throw, and that really goes for all 3 groups. I mean, there hasn't been a ton of pressure that we've given up from the offensive line perspective, which is good to see. So I think we're improving. I don't think it necessarily is a indictment, good or bad, on what our performance will be, but the things that we want to see from a performance perspective has shown up in the games.
What do you tell the guys at the running back position? Does Julius's place on this team take on added meaning with Khalil's inexperience and Tajay's injury?
Certainly does. I mean, Julius has proven himself to be a good runner and a good protector, and a viable special teams player. So his role certainly will pick up, and it puts him in a really advantageous position to show for himself and show that he's willing or deserving of a spot on the roster. And he's had a nice camp. He's had some good preseason games. And then young backs always have learning curves too, particularly in protection. And that process is ongoing for Khalil. So I'm glad we have Julius at the moment.
What do you tell all those guys that are still battling for that spot and this is their one last shot to kind of make their case?
Yeah, I mean, it's still part of the totality of an evaluation, right? It's not one game isn't necessarily going to make or break a player because we have multiple practices and games to go off of, but it is their last opportunity. It's the one last shot they have. We got one more day in pads here, and we got one more game this week, and that's it. And the roster gets cut the next couple of days after that. So it is their one last chance to show well for themselves, and not just for us, for the rest of the league. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and that's part of what my message is to them too. Is you're trying to put your resume on tape for whatever comes next, because we can only keep 53 guys and 16 on the practice squad. So it is a big final push for some guys trying to make a name for themselves, whether it's here or somewhere else.
So, with so many young guys on this roster, what percentage would you say that you're still trying to figure out down the stretch?
You get to this point, there's a lot of things that are pretty concrete, and there's a handful of spots that are up for competition, especially when you're talking about your depth spots and the swing tackle spot, the running back spot, the safety spots. There's opportunity, that back end of the receiving room, that spot 6 and 7. Those things are all being competed for, and I think that's good and healthy, and that's how you build your depth.
I think it's fair to assume that none of the backups on this team are safe. You guys are going to utilize the waiver wire, signings, all of that. Is there a point of diminishing returns if you add a bunch of guys who haven't been around the culture, around the scheme 2 weeks before the first game, just because you think they could be marginally better?
Yeah, I think that's part of the balance of when you have that opportunity to claim players. You don't just claim a player to claim one. You got to feel like it's a real talent upgrade for an opportunity to help your team. And you don't just dismiss guys because, we've also poured a lot of work into these players that have been here for the better part of 6 months. So there's a balance. I mean, there's definitely can you find better players and can they help your team improve from even a depth perspective? Great. But there's also some benefit to having guys that have been in and around your system and know what you want from them too. So that's the fine line you walk at this time of year. And again, having the number one waiver claim allows us to be aggressive if we choose to be. And if there's players that we think can help us, I think that's certainly going to be the case. So I think it is. There's a fine line to that, and there is a balance to how much you do in that period of time. But if there's players that can help us, great.
More guys, you've talked a lot about the culture shift you've been doing for this offseason. Do you have a tangible thing you can point to? This does feel different now. This culture has changed.
Yeah, I think there's probably quite a few I could point to. One of them that I just felt on the trip. It was probably 8:00 at night. We're in a hotel, and I'm down in the little area where the meal room is and our meeting rooms are and stuff. And it's about, 8:30. And I walk into the cafeteria and there's about, 20 guys in there playing cards. And I walk into one of the film rooms. There's about another, probably 8 to 10 guys in there watching film, having conversations. And I think their buy-in to what we're asking of them from a scheme perspective and the connection that those guys have made. I think that was really cool to see. That's what I was hoping to see a lot of in the trip. And that was sort of every night that went on. There was some version of a bunch of guys around talking about football, watching tape, spending time together. That stuff I think was, I think that's what we were after.
Does Jim need more live reps, punt returning, in order for you to know what he can do, or what he can do at this point?
Yeah, I think we got a pretty good feel for what all those returners can do. I think some opportunities to get another 1 or 2 in the game. He's got some kick return reps live. So we'll see. That could be on the table this week potentially. But yeah, I think those guys have all done a good job in practice. I mean, we got a pretty good look at those guys in the joint practices as well. So we'll see how the live reps shake out, but it would never be a bad thing.
Would
Last one.
What do you see defensively in terms of the kind of the scheme of the power rush that you guys want to use with the big guys? Have you seen enough results to see? To know if there's any improvement so far?
Yeah, I've seen our rush lanes have been way more disciplined. It's shown up more like in the practices when you see that stuff, especially in the joint practices, but not as many free lanes, not as clean of a pocket for the quarterbacks to operate in. We'll see when we get to the games what it really looks like. And when we're all in there, rushing all the pressure packages on top of it. So yeah, I've seen improvement from that regard from what we're looking for. And again, just like the offensive line sort of remains to be seen what it actually looks like when we play for real. But I'm happy with the progress. The only person that's new out is Rid's got a little soreness and we're going to hold him today. Ridley.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That was Brian Callahan speaking ahead of Titans practice today. We will react to what he had to say coming up next. Next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Hour number 2, next man up, 102.5 The Game on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Just heard from Brian Callahan, Titans hitting the practice field over at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. We will have updates from practice later on in the show. Also, Jeff Hem, voice of the Nashville Sounds, going to join us coming up at 10:30. Couple of things from that Brian Callahan presser. The one that got me and you, what PK kept poking. Like, I like it from Paul Kaharski. That is who he is. He is the guy who's going to keep asking the questions till he gets the answer he wants. But man, we got some fiery Brian Callahan there for a second when he asked about throwing Jeff Simmons out of the practice. I like it. I like it from Brian Callahan. He was not happy with the notion of he should have thrown Jeffrey Simmons out of practice yesterday.
I've been in the league 16 years. I've never thrown anybody out. I don't know how it was before this, but
that was
not about me.
That was so funny. He's basically like, I don't know where you guys are getting this. Like, people don't get thrown out of practice that often.
I'll tell you where he got it, or where he gets it, is the guy before him actually did throw people out of practice. So that's where it's coming from.
Well, and it's like, you don't hear a ton about guys getting thrown out of practice. I mean, like the one that stands out is the DeAndre Hopkins, D'Angelo Hall joint practice one, where those guys just started fist fighting in the middle of the field. But like, I liked it from Brian Callahan, because usually he tries to be the, mellow, like,
cool, calm,
gives
collected.
the safe answer to a lot of questions. He was not happy about that question. A couple of other updates. Calvin Ridley not practicing today. He said soreness. You hope that they're being honest there. Kevin Winston has been out for soreness for about 3 weeks. So, and obviously that's different. He's recovering from an ACL, but we'll see. Calvin Ridley not practicing today. Maybe a little bit concerning. We'll see if he's out there tomorrow. I would guess that means for sure he's not playing on Friday. Doesn't sound like T'Vondre Sweat is back. Little concerning that he's missed most of training camp now. And L'Jarius Sneed, just an enigma. What can you say about L'Jarius Sneed except no one has any idea what's going on with him? Second question to the press conference. Do you think L'Jarius Sneed could come back this week? And it's maybe tomorrow. We'll see. He's got some stuff to work through. Maybe tomorrow. We'll find out. It's like, will he be ready for week 1? Who knows?
Yeah, it's almost like he told on himself. I mean, like, what is it? Left or right? Or we go straight? Like, where is it, Brian? Like, we got to know, is Sneed actually going to play football this year or not? That's simply what Titans fans want to know. Just give us an indicator saying, yeah, you know what? We actually will expect him to play this season. I would have been okay with a umbrella answer of, we expect him to play this season. I would have been okay with
right. That would have been fine. Lenny on our text line says, what are you talking about? You just said that he should have thrown him out of practice. Now you're supporting him for saying that he shouldn't throw him out of practice. Which is it, guys? I do want to clarify. I'm not saying he shouldn't have thrown him out of practice. I'm saying I like the fire from Brian Callahan when he disagreed. It was less about what he said. It was more about how he said it. I do think that he should have held Big Jeff accountable, because as PK said in his question, he said, is that giving free reign to everybody to hit Cam Ward? And like, obviously that's not going to happen. People know not to hit the quarterback. I'm not saying he shouldn't have thrown him out of practice. I'm saying I like that Brian Callahan stood up and didn't like the question and the narrative around it, and he stood up and was unhappy with it. He had some fire. He had some edge. We like that from Brian Callahan.
It's like no longer low T Titans. They're the Titans. They are the bringing the energy Titans, and that's what Brian Callahan brings to the table. And I mean, honestly, I don't know if he read it or not, or maybe seen it on his little ESPN app about the whole article, maybe Amy wanting to potentially move on from him after the season.
I mean, I'm sure that's probably not a great way to wake up. That article came out at 6 a.m. I'm sure that he saw it.
Yeah. I mean, if you see stuff like that and then you have PK follow up with these questions, like, you're probably going to be peed off a little bit.
I mean, not that Brian Callahan didn't know. I'm sure that he understood if there were conversations going on, but like,
right.
To have it put out there, and I'm sure he's getting texts and calls and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that's not a fun way to start your morning. But no, I'm not. I still stand by the fact that I think at least last year and maybe yesterday, and I get it, he said that they pulled him off the practice field and practice was over 2 plays later, so it wouldn't have made a whole much of a difference. I do think that Brian Callahan needs to hold Big Jeff accountable. I'm just saying I like that Callahan stood up and wasn't taking anything from PK, who I like it. Paul Kaharski, that is what he does. He's going to poke. He's going to ask the tough questions. But I like that Brian Callahan fought back a little bit. Not every head coach needs to be Mike Vrabel, but I like some edge because that's the one thing that people have been asking for from Brian Callahan is, don't have the forced edge like his backwards hat speech at the beginning of the year, but have some edge, have some personality with it.
Yeah, and I think everybody, especially Titans fans, are just tired of the sunshine and rainbows aspect of this two-tone blue. And I think with seeing Brian Callahan do that, that's exactly what you want to see. You want to see a little, like you're saying, edge, grit, all the above. The one thing that kind of, I wouldn't say rubbed me the wrong way, but definitely caught my attention was one of those PK questions of, does Jeff have special treatment?
Yeah.
Because even though Callahan said no, I'm still going with yes. Because if you look at a player that is, air quotes, a leader, a captain in some regard, and you give him a form of special treatment, to me, that is a yes, not a no.
Yeah, I do wonder if Cam Horsley went up and pushed Cam Ward in the face, he probably gets cut today. Like, obviously it's different. Like Jeffrey Simmons is Jeffrey Simmons, but I wonder if maybe there is a little special.
Listen, guys, I think this is real simple. It seems like every time there's a fight, every time there's a scuffle at Titans practice, there is always one key person in the middle of it, and it happens to be Jeff Simmons. And as a leader, it's bad for eyeballs, people that are looking. It's bad for your teammates, your younger guys that are looking at you. Someone has to put a stop to it. I'm just being honest. Like, this is no slight to – well, it kind of is a slight. This has to stop. You can't be a leader and keep being in the middle of fights.
It's true. Simmons has to be mature, and it does seem like every time there's an issue, Jeff Simmons is right in the middle of it. Brian Callahan downplaying it, said it was, I wrote down the exact words, just some training camp push and shove, your standard back and forth. I get it, but when it's between your star player and your first overall pick quarterback, like it's a little bit bigger deal than if Jarvis Brownlee Jr. and Mason Kinsey are pushing and shoving. Like you gotta rein that in. Jeff Simmons has to know not to hit the quarterback, but also, as Callahan said, Cam Ward probably shouldn't have put himself in that situation. Was a little disrespectful doing the zombie land right in front of Jeffrey Simmons' face and pushing him from behind. So I think it's a learning experience, hopefully for everybody. I think Brian Callahan understands that can't happen. Jeff Simmons hopefully understands that he can't do that. And hopefully Cam Ward understands that, hey, don't put yourself in a situation where somebody's going to hit you. You shouldn't get hit wearing the red jersey, but you're not the bubble boy. Like you can't, somebody can still hit you if you get in their face. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have thoughts, we'll continue to react to Brian Callahan's press conference as the Titans hit the practice field this morning. Jeff M from the Nashville Sounds will join us coming up at 10:30. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Nashville's best deal of the week is Bavarian Beer House, conveniently located at Opry Mills Mall. Enjoy beer, food, music, and fun at Nashville's only authentic German beer hall, where it's Oktoberfest every day. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals now to get a $50 gift card for only $25 to Bavarian Beer House while supplies last. Next man up here on 102.5 The Game. This fall, live at the Pinnacle at Nashville Yards, Tim McGraw will perform at Trinetics Rock the Cradle. This event is sure to be a great time celebrating a great cause. Proceeds from the event will support newborns and moms at Ascension St. Thomas Midtown. Get your tickets now at rockthecradlenashville.org. Jeff M. from the Nashville Sound is going to join us coming up in the next segment for a full hour. Going to talk some baseball sound, starting a series with the Louisville Bats tonight in Nashville. Their parent club, the Milwaukee Brewers, are the best team in baseball by far. We're going to have a great conversation about the Sounds, Brewers, baseball as a whole. Some thoughts on Rob Manfred saying geographic realignment. I wonder what Jeff Hem's thoughts are on that. We'll get that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. We are reacting to Brian Callahan's pre-practice press conference. Basically said that the Cam Ward, Jeff Simmons scuffle was your standard training camp, push and shove. It was all fine. So he's downplaying it. The injury updates are where my red flags are starting to go up. Calvin Ridley, we mentioned that he's not practicing today. He said soreness. So I'm not going to concern about that until he misses a couple practices. Let's see what happens with Calvin Ridley. The two that I'm getting a little concerned about, L'Jarius Sneed and Tavondre Sweat. I understand Tavondre Sweat is tonsils at this point. So it's not like we're worried about him missing week 1. But this is his second year, and he's now missed most of training camp with his abdominal injury and now got his tonsils removed. You can't control it, but look back at Peter Skoronski's rookie year when he had his appendix taken out. I get you lose weight with that and all that kind of stuff, but just missing that time out on the practice field, you wonder if that stunts his growth just a little bit. I'm not worried about Sweat being on the field, but he's missed a lot of time in this training camp to be able to grow. Maybe we don't see that next step in year 2 from Tavondre Sweat.
Yeah, and to that point, Jake, I think you look at Tavondre Sweat, it's not about the mental game for him, it's the physical game.
Right.
I don't know what type of shape he will be in because that's what bothers me. Obviously, tonsillitis or whatever you have, you could get your tonsils out. You could have done that probably back in January or February, even if you knew that your tonsils were sore. A lot of people get their tonsils out. You didn't have to do it right before, the season begins.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like the timing
unless it was like an emergent, like it got really bad really fast.
Yeah. So for him, it's more about the shape physically than it is the actual game for mental game for him. Looking at week 1, week 2, week 3, I think he will definitely use Jeffrey Simmons and the rest of the interior as a crutch. And then you go on from there. Maybe the exterior of the edges of Femi Oladejo, Arden Key can kind of help compensate for all those, lack of opportunities for Tavondre Sweat. So it's just a matter of time with him. And to the point about growth, yeah, there is some growth that has been hugely missed in this training
Yeah,
camp.
I mean, training camp's not everything, but you're right. Tavondre Sweat proved a lot of people wrong last year about can he play enough snaps to be an impact player, and he did. He played, I want to say, either the most or second most snaps among rookie defensive tackles. So he was able to dispel that right away, but he missed most of training camp. Maybe you're not in football shape quite yet, especially starting in Mile High where air's thinner. I'm wondering if maybe he won't be able to play a whole lot of snaps in week 1, and does that slow down the progression that we hope to see from Tavondre Sweat? With L'Jarius Sneed, I mean, we said it, it's an enigma. We have no idea what's going to happen with L'Jarius Sneed because, Brian Callahan literally goes, yeah, he could be back tomorrow. We don't know. Will he be ready for week 1? We'll see. My question is becoming, L'Jarius Sneed hasn't played football since early October of last year. Even if he is healthy, in air quotes, is he going to be productive? He hasn't played a live football game since the Colts game in week 5 was the last time when he took the helmet off the quad. Is he going to be able to come back? And I'm not even saying go back to being who he was with the Chiefs. Can he come back and be a starting caliber corner in the NFL? I think that is a huge question.
To the point about starting, I don't think so. I think he'd be a serviceable cornerback. I think it was Gentry Estes that was talking with Robbie Nurexter this morning. I think it was Connor that asked the question, great question by Connor about the defense. And Gentry responded about Jarvis Brownlee Jr. And, he had a really good rookie season, but can he have a good second season? And I think with the whole L'Jarius Sneed saga and his injury, it puts more pressure on Jarvis Brownlee Jr. to produce. And I think he's going to have to, because if it's me, if I'm the head coach, I'm moving on from Sneed. Mentally, I am moving on. Maybe he's, comes in every couple plays. But I don't know. Like, we all don't know what his status is. And if you don't know that, you move on.
It's hard to expect anything from L'Jarius Sneed because you hear the coaches like Denard Wilson has come out and Brian Callahan has come out and said, like, when he's healthy, he is one of our starting cornerbacks. But again, he hasn't been on a football field playing football, even practicing football in 10 months. And even when he was out there last year, the Dolphins game, he wasn't great. The Colts game, he wasn't great. I believe he gave up a couple of deep balls to Alec Pearson that game. Like, it's not like he was playing at a defensive player of the year, all pro level like he was when he was with the Chiefs. Like, he was in the conversation for best cornerback in the NFL when he was with the Chiefs. I don't know if he ever was actually solidified like at the top, but he was in the top 5 for sure. He wasn't that kind of player, even when he was, again, healthy last year, in air quotes. I don't know if he's ever going to be that player again. I don't know if he's going to be close to that player again, but I can be pretty sure he's not going to be close to that player in week 1 when we still haven't seen him on the practice field. And we are now 19 days away from week 1. Like, I can't see him coming out and being matched up with Cortland Sutton week 1 and actually having a decent game.
No, yeah. And, he had his whole knee thing and the quad thing. For me, if you're a cornerback and you play man-to-man coverage, there's a lot of shifting of the hips. That is going to play a huge factor into all this. And if he can't do that, and if that's what the Titans are trying to hide, that, like I said, you move on from that. But to ease him back into the game, you have to put him in certain packages where he can only play zone. If that's me, if I'm a corner and playing zone, because that'll ease him back into football shape or whatever you want to call it. And that's simply that, because then that leaves less stress on Jarvis Brownlee, less stress on Amani Hooker over the top. And looking at the whole Snead situation, because he's looked at as a perennial player, you got to look at Amani Hooker. I think he said 3-4 weeks ago that he wants to be that leader Kevin Byard was for him. He is that leader on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to showing how to be a true football player at the pro level.
Well, the problem with getting L'Jarius Sneed, like, if he's playing zone, that means that he has to have safety help over the top if you're trying to take less stress off of him. But they already have to do that with Jarvis Brownlee because Jarvis Brownlee is not quick. So oftentimes Amani Hooker will be helping over the top on the side of Jarvis Brownlee. Well, what do you do with L'Jarius Sneed? Because now he has to cover man, and that just makes it too hard on the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I know Denard Wilson talks about how he wants these big physical corners who are going to go up and they're going to press and they're going to beat up these wide receivers. And yeah, they may get some penalties here and there, but they also are going to get beat off the line sometimes. Like, if you're pressing that much, you're going to get beat sometimes. You got to have safety help over the top. I wonder if you want somebody who maybe can be a little more conservative on the other side.
That's what I'm saying. Like, to his point about, if you play a zone for the most part, you're going to have more pressure and more just, I guess, responsibilities for Jarvis Brownlee. Being a young player, you have to be quick. I get it. He's slow off the ball. I understand that. But if you look at an injured player to a not injured player, you got to give more responsibility to the guy that's not injured. And that, to Parker's point.
Yeah, I don't know if we can expect anything from L'Jarius Sneed this year. I'm not ready to say he's not going to be on the field. I think they're going to give him a chance. But the way I felt about the cornerback room a year ago, even 6 months ago, it's greatly diminished because, I mean, I get it. Chidobe Awuzie wasn't a great player, but he was a veteran guy who I think at least, even if he's your 5th cornerback, you feel better about that than some of the other options out there. You're either going to need Darrell Baker to be a solid caliber player, or you need one of the young guys to step up, whether that's your draft pick, Marcus Harris, maybe some of the undrafted guys, Gabe Judy-Lawley from last year, who he plays more in the nickel, or Jamari Harris, who I don't know if he's even going to make the team. So the Titans cornerback room, it's
looking bleak.
It is thin, and even at the top, it's not very good. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have thoughts, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Dr. Crank, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
It's been fun. And if you want more of Nick Frazier, listening at noon with Chase and Big Joe. He'll be there for the radio show and back with us tomorrow from
Thank
9 to noon.
Indeed. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Love talking Titans and all sports with you, man.
Yes. Always great to talk with Nick Frazier. We will have more Titans stuff at the end of the show. Also some NFL news and notes because a division rival just named a starting quarterback. If you haven't seen that, we'll get to that towards the end of the show. But for the next hour, Jeff Hem from the Nashville Sounds is going to join us. Excited to talk with Jeff about the Sounds as they start a series against the Louisville Bats tonight. Also, the Milwaukee Brewers with lots of former Sounds. They have the best record in baseball. We'll talk with Jeff Hem for the next hour coming up next here on Next Man Up 102.5 The Game. Next Man Up 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. And we are now pleased to be joined live in studio for the next hour by the voice of the Nashville Sounds, Jeff Hem. Going to talk some baseball on the station. Baseball doesn't get enough love around here, and excited to talk with Jeff for the next hour as the Sounds start their series against the Louisville Bats. Jeff, good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Good to see you, man. Thanks for having me. Congrats on the show.
Thank you.
It's been fun to listen to you so far, and thanks for letting me be your next man up for an hour.
Yes, it is nice. The format of the show, it allows us to talk with a lot of different people. Obviously, it's a lot of Titans guys. We'll bring in Tehran and Paul Kaharski, but we get Vanderbilt people, and got to get the Sounds involved here too as they come down the stretch in the season. We were just talking. I can't believe it's almost over. Like baseball season flies, even though it's long. It's 150 games, but it does feel like it does fly by.
It does. Since I have kids, I liken it to having kids where the days are long, but the years are short. It's
right.
Kind of how fatherhood works. You're like, how are they already this age or that age? It's like, how have we already gotten almost to September? And then I look at the schedule. I'm like, I've done all those games. That makes sense, but yet here we are. I think it's because the 6-game series format, which has been in place since 2021, I think that makes the season feel like it goes by faster because it's literally just taking a chunk off the week every week instead of a 3-game series and a 4-game series, which would amount to the same thing over time, but it doesn't feel the same as when you see one team for an entire week and then that comes off the schedule. Right. Mentally, it feels like you don't look at the schedule as much in the middle of the week when you're playing a team 6 times in a row. And then when that week is over, you're like, oh, that was a whole week's worth of games. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But yeah, tonight we're home to start a 2-week homestand. One of only 2 homestands left. We've got 18 home games total left and only 30 games total overall remaining, which is just wild.
I mean, it's a perfect way to put it of the days are long, but the years fly by. I mean, I did summer college baseball, and that was only a 75-game season, so half of what you're doing. And it's like, while you're in the thick of it, it's like, man, every day it's like you got another broadcast and it goes, and then all of a sudden it's by, and you're like, man, where'd the time go? So only 18 home games left, 12 in a row here. Louisville starting tonight, Charlotte coming up next week. I always think the AAA format is just so interesting because I get it. You have to keep the travel close. You don't want teams flying from, Sacramento all the way to Charlotte. And that's why they split the PCL and the IL, but 20 teams in the National League, 10 in the PCL. So you get 20% of the teams in one league make the playoffs, while only 10% of the other league make the playoffs. It is interesting how, and they do it with the halves too. So first half champion makes the playoffs, second half champion makes the playoffs, and they play in the IL PCL championships.
Yes, I like the 2 halves. I didn't think I was going to as much as I have because it does allow a team that might have a brutal April to be in a playoff chase in July, when otherwise, as we know from big league teams, like certain big league teams are out of it by May 1st. So I like that part of it. But it's, and I'll try not to go off on too much of a soapbox here because you and I have chatted off air over times about our schedule. And I mean, the Sounds, like you said, are in a 20-team league. We only play this year 12 of the other 19 teams in the league. So it's immediately a very unbalanced schedule. And then when you get into playoff chase, like what happened with the Sounds in the first half, they fell 2 games or 3 games out of a playoff spot. They were trying to chase one team that they have never played in the last 5 years, Lehigh Valley, AAA for the Phillies. Have never played them. Do not play them this year. We just announced our 2026 schedule. Don't play them next year. So, and I get it. It's hard to play everybody. It's hard. It's impossible to send a schedule to all the 20 teams in the league and include the player perspective, the manager perspective, the minor league front office perspective, the farm director's perspective, where everybody's gonna be like, love this. This is great. You can't please everybody. It's impossible. But it is a little frustrating to not play everybody or to have never played some of the teams that the Sounds have been in a league with now for 5 years. We've never played Lehigh Valley. We had never played Scranton Wilkes-Barre until this year. So it's fun to see them, fun to see some new blood. They got to host a Yankees affiliate in Nashville, which had not happened in decades. Next year, we'll see Worcester, AAA for the Red Sox will come in. That's kind of cool. Just hasn't happened in a while. So there's a little bit of that where I think the schedule makers understand that certain affiliates want to host certain teams, but when you then look at a 10-team Pacific Coast League, they're over there saying, we're playing everybody 30 times. Can we play somebody else?
Yeah.
So now they're starting to dip a toe in the water with cross-league
Right.
play. The Sounds will go to Sugarland next year to take on the Astros AAA club, which on its own is kind of cool. But then you're like, okay, but we might be chasing Buffalo in a playoff chase. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, the AAA postseason is minimized. The value of it, unfortunately, gets minimized because from MLB's perspective, they want all 30 AAA teams to play as late into the season as possible. So if you shave off a week to create a wild card round, or you make the AAA championship a best of 5, or even the league championship a best of 5 or 7 or whatever, that all takes games away from everybody at AAA playing. And let's take Toledo, for example. I know you're a Tigers fan.
Yep.
You get into a situation where the parent club is in a race, or at least preparing for postseason play. If the AAA club has been out of it and ends its season in like early mid-September, which is what used to happen at AAA, and then you need somebody for the Tigers, you might be calling up a guy who hasn't played for
sitting
2 or 3
on the
weeks.
couch.
And so that's why the schedule length is the way it is, and by default, the playoff format is the way it is, so that all AAA clubs are playing as far as possible, and then the postseason is as brief as possible, because at the end of the day, AAA will always be about fulfilling what the big league team needs. And some negatives that come with that are the occasional schedule peculiarity or playoff chase that you're in, but you're competing with teams that you never see. So I don't think it's ever going to get fully solved. But it just is the way it is at that point.
Right. And it is funny. You mentioned like Toledo. When I first moved here, I was thinking, oh, the Sounds are in town. I'll go get to see the Mud Hens come play here every year. And then
I think they've come here once.
I don't think I've seen them since I've moved here.
We've been there twice, but again, like this year, we don't play them. 2 years ago, we opened the season
right.
there.
You played what, 3 games up there, right?
And so again, like there are certain teams, Memphis, even we play Louisville tonight. We have not seen the Louisville Bats yet this year.
Which is one of the closest teams
to
you.
It is literally the closest team to us geographically. That's where again, you're getting me going on this, Jake, and I'm trying not.
I knew this is one that would rile you up.
I realized for like the casual fan or the Sounds fan who comes to 5 or 6 games, like this may not be that compelling, but like it's a perfect example of what do you want the AAA schedule to accomplish. If you, out of COVID, it was geography. Play as many teams as close to you as possible with the 6-game series to minimize the flights and the bus rides and, the possible lost games from some illness spreading. That's how this schedule originated. And now 5 years later, they're still sort of trying to do that, but they're also sort of not, because we're going to Sugarland next year. So it's like, I just want to know what the goal of the schedule is. And that sometimes is a little hard to figure out, because Louisville's 2.5 hours from us, and yet we're seeing them for the first time on August the 19th.
Right.
We end the season there. So we will play 12 games against Louisville, the team that we're closest to. And there are years where we're going to Jacksonville twice and hosting Jacksonville twice.
Right.
So again, for most fans, this is probably not that big of a deal. But when you're in the thick of it and you're following a team every day that is fighting to win every game it can, while also players are trying to get to the big leagues, you want it to make a little bit more sense than it does.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the bottom line for me.
I've gotten the chance to fill in for you for a little bit, and I wanted to highlight Rick Sweet a little bit, the manager of the Sounds, one of the all-time winningest managers in minor league history. And just being around him for the small amount that I have been, I wrote down on the plan for the show today, ultimate baseball guy. Like that is just a dude who lives and breathes the game of baseball. And it's funny because, again, like you mentioned, the casual follower who just goes out to a couple games may not recognize Rick Sweet as the manager of the Sounds. But when you're around him and you see everything that he does for that team and how much he cares about his players and their journeys, it is really cool to see that he's devoted his life to this game and is still doing it at how old is
early 70s.
Early 70s. Yep. He's still out there doing it every single day.
Every single day. I'm glad you brought it up, because we as the Sounds want people to realize the career that Rick has built for himself. He's actually currently tied for third all-time minor league managerial win.
Right.
So his next win will move him ahead of Buddy Bailey, also a longtime minor league manager of the last few decades, who's not managing this year. So Rick is now about to pass him. It'll take next year, maybe even another year as far as first all-time, if Rick is going to keep climbing the way it is right now. But he's about to be third all-time ever in minor league managerial wins. He's at 2,417 right now. And you just stop and think about that number, which then also means, and Rick would point this out, he's like, well, how many losses have I had? Because he's managed so many games.
Right.
But he's done this for almost 4 decades as a minor league manager, most of it at AAA. He and I were kind of chatting the other day. I was like, how many guys do you think he's told you're going to the big leagues? Many of them for the very first time. And that is the best part of a AAA manager's job, to get to tell that player. That's kind of the sacred moment.
Yeah.
For all the hours you put in, you're 99 times out of 100, it's the AAA manager that gets to break the news to that player. So that alone, think about how many guys he's gotten to share life-changing news to, which is very cool. But then also just, allow all the tough conversations when guys are released, or they've been put on waivers, or they've been traded, or they're going back down to AA, and just the hours that he puts in. And you know what it's like to cover a team every day, whatever the sport. You get to know the coach or the manager or the players, and everybody's personality is a little bit different every year. The team dynamic is a little bit different. I'm realizing, because Rick started with the Sounds in 2014, and then we changed affiliates, but he's been managing AAA for the Brewers ever since. So starting back in 2021, Rick Sweet back with the Sounds, but he's been AAA for the Brewers this whole time. I'm realizing how fortunate I've been, and I am, to get to just talk ball with him every day. We do the 5 minutes every Sunday on the air. It's the minute after minute, hour after hour off the air that's the most enjoyable part, because he just wants to talk ball. You can ask him anything, whether it's, hey, did you see that big league play last night? Or, what are you thinking here? He loves when he likes to joke that I second guess him all the time, but I'd love to go in the next day and say, hey, I'm just curious. Did the double steal last night? Did you think they were going to do that, or whatever it is? And he just wants to talk ball. He will give you the answer. He loves it. He lives it and breathes it. He comes in with, we mentioned the age of the early 70s. Like, he's got the same energy that he did over a decade ago when I first met him. He wants to win every single game. He knows what his job is, and he knows that most of the time. We saw it over the weekend wrapping up in Durham. The Sounds had to put a position player on the mound, back-to-back games, Saturday and Sunday. Just ran out of arms. AAA life. But that didn't stop Rick from trying to manage the heck out of those games to still win the game. Like, he is always trying to do 2 things at once. He's big on the value of winning and the mindset that creates for players who then get to the big leagues. So it's just a really unique guy. Loves to have fun. Loves when you tease him. I always, I was like, Rick, what was it like to manage Babe Ruth? Like, just, he loves that stuff. He just loves, oh yeah, I've been in the game 100 years or whatever. But you also know, and rightfully so, he's very proud of his career.
Yep.
And I don't think people realize how good AAA ball players are, how tough that level is. And when you manage that level for almost 40 years, it's easy to be like, well, he never got to the big leagues, or it's like a player, but he never got to the big leagues. You don't understand AAA baseball then, if that's where you go when you look at someone's resume, because Rick Sweet has built an amazing career with just unprecedented AAA success. Only 2 human beings ever have managed more wins than he will have at his next victory. It's pretty remarkable.
Over 2,400 wins. It is insane. I think and you mentioned the best moments sending guys to the big leagues. I believe his moment with Sal Frelick went viral a couple of years ago when he sent him up. I want to get to a guy he sent to the big leagues for the first time this year coming up next, who has made a pretty good name for himself so far with the Milwaukee Brewers. Jake Lyman with you, Parker Kelly, and we're joined by Jeff Hem until 11:30, the voice of the Nashville Sounds. More with Jeff coming up right after this. You're on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Be a hero and save a life tomorrow at the 12th Annual Williamson County Battle of the Badges Blood Drive. The drive will be held at Brentwood Concord Road Library tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 1025 The Game will be on hand from noon to 2 o'clock with swag to give away and a chance to win free concert tickets. Jake Lyman, joined by the voice of the Nashville Sounds, Jeff Ham, up until 11:30. Sound starting a series tonight, 6:35 first pitch against the Louisville Bats. And Jeff, we were talking about Rick Sweet and how the best part about being a AAA manager is that you get to send guys to the majors for the first time and tell them that they finally made the big leagues. This year, Jacob Mizorowski, I went and saw him in, I want to say May, and just it was the fastest game I've ever been to because he was just mowing people down. I think the game was over in like 2 hours and 6 minutes or something like that because he went 7 shutout innings and struck out 10 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he goes up to the majors, makes 5 starts, and then goes to the All-Star game.
Incredible.
I mean, you've seen a lot of great players during your time with the Sounds. I would assume Jacob Mizorowski and the way that he's risen through the ranks all the way up to being an all-star in his rookie season is probably up there as one of those success stories that you've seen at the AAA level.
Yeah, he's definitely on that short list of the ones who've like wowed you the most. And a part of it is like he came up at the end of last year and it doesn't take long where you're like, wow, the velocity is amazing. The pure stuff potential is great. But then it was the quick rise this year to commanding that stuff like on the edges and getting ahead. And then there's the curveball and like really pitching and not just here's a really hard thrower that at AAA at least will miss a lot of bats. It became like you could see it that this will play in the major leagues. Now, I'm not going to, nobody predicted in 5 starts he'd be an all-star, but like you knew the potential. Then you combined it with like the polish that we saw other than a couple of outings this year. It was just the consistency and then the toying with hitters. Some of them where it was almost like he didn't even need to throw the guy a fastball. The other stuff was good enough. And then when the changeup became better, you're like, well, now this is just silly. Like this is bordering on ridiculous on some of the swings that he would get. So pretty cool to see. I hope he's back off the injured list, but didn't look great the other day in his first start. He'll pitch again this week for them against the Cubs. You just hope he can stay healthy, and like anybody up there, just because of the season that the Brewers have built. And I mean, it's 2/3, not just former Sounds, but Sounds of the last 2-3 years. And in some cases, just this year, like Mizorowski, it's been so fun to watch what they've done up there. And they are not just by record, by every measurable possible. They're the best team in baseball. Best team in baseball.
Yep.
And the outside world, as we all love to think going into a year, what it's all going to look like. Very few would have thought that this could be the case on August the 19th.
And that's why baseball is great because, yes, there's no salary cap. And you've got these big spenders like the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees. And they're all going to be playoff teams. And you would guess that they're going to be tough outs once they get to the playoffs because of the talent on those rosters. But you have a team like Milwaukee that there isn't really a big time free agent on that team. And it's all this homegrown talent, like you said, that came right through Nashville. And even they make a trade and send Aaron Savali away after he requests a trade. You bring in Andrew Vaughn, who was a reclamation project, former 3rd overall pick. And then he goes up and lights it up with the Brewers. And it's fun to see a team that they don't spend as much money as some of the bigger teams, and they don't have the big star players that some of these other teams do, but they just win baseball games and they play winning baseball. And that's what I think is great about MLB is that, a team that if they play the game the right way and, get hot at the right time, anybody can go win the World Series.
Well, and you used the phrase, play the game the right way. I love that because I think that people might define that differently of what is playing the game the right way. I know what you mean, and I agree with you. And I think the Brewers do play the game the right way. And the right way to me is that they hit home runs. So that this idea of the Brewers during the last few weeks have hit a ton of home runs. Now, early in the year, the narrative was more true about them, the base running and the defense, the pitching, the run prevention. What's great now is they're still doing that and they're hitting home runs. I mean, to their game yesterday, Bryce Terang has hit like 7 home runs in the last 2 weeks. Caleb Durbin, not known as a power guy because he's not super tall and hasn't had some 40 home run season in the minor leagues, but he's powerful enough to hit home runs, and he hit another one yesterday. So they can beat you in any type of way that that game that day demands that you be beaten. And they've got every ingredient that you could want. They can play the small ball. I think the biggest thing about their style is that whether they end up homering or they end up with a 2-run single, they make the pitcher and the other team work, and they drive you crazy, whether it's taking the extra base or a 9-pitch walk and then the home run. And that is really deflating for a team. So they've got all the ingredients. And I think as we talked about Rick Sweet in the last segment, I think it's applicable to what it seems like. I'm not up there every day, but you hear about it and you read about it and you talk to players who are down here who've been up there. Pat Murphy seems to have that special sauce of a big league manager where it seems like there's some old school. It seems like there's some new school. He's got the perfect culture set, it sounds like. And he was already there for several years before taking the reins as that manager. But that group seems to love each other, and that's easy when you're winning. But they also seem to mix well together. And that has not always been the case of some of the power players in this game, like the Dodgers or the Yankees, or a lot of talent. But then you look at the lineups or the mix and you're like, something doesn't feel right. You never say that about the Brewers, that something doesn't also feel right. Didn't guarantee a World Series win, but there's every ingredient is there. And and it's going to be really interesting to see how October plays out, because this guarantees very little, but there's a body of work there and a style that seems to be able to play in a postseason series, maybe a little bit differently than Brewers teams of the past,
Right,
who've not gotten past that early round stage.
I know it wouldn't be the flashy pick that maybe baseball or the national audience would like, but I think a Tigers-Brewers World Series would be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Those are two teams that like Tarek Skubal obviously is a Cy Young winner, but in terms of the guys in the lineup, there's a lot of talent, but there isn't an Aaron Judge. There isn't it, but they work together so well. They pass the baton. The bullpens are good. I think that would be a fun matchup.
And managers that hold their teams accountable, managers that are old school and new school, in my opinion. I mean, AJ Hinch is one of the smartest people in the game, but he also, everything you hear about the Tigers is he's got like the feel. He's got the empathy. He's got the structure.
Yeah.
He can take a guy out of a game if he needs to and tell him why to his face. Like, he can have the tough conversation. I just think that those teams are I think managing matters more than sometimes we think it does.
Right.
And whether we're talking about a Rick Sweet here with the Sounds, or we're talking about Pat Murphy with the Brewers, or AJ Hinch with the Tigers, I think sometimes it's hard to define. And I get that. And there's a segment of baseball fandom that doesn't like that then if you can't define it.
Yep.
But tell me it doesn't matter, and I'll disagree.
It is funny because, as somebody who follows the Tigers, lots of Tigers fans get upset when Kerry Carpenter's at the plate and he's one of the Tigers' best hitters, and a lefty comes in and you're like, just let him hit. And they bring in an old friend, Jahmai Jones, who's a right-handed guy. And it's like, man, he's not. And then he gets a base hit and moves the line along. It's like, all right, well, maybe AJ does know what he's doing.
Yeah.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have thoughts, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jeff Hem, the voice of the Nashville Sounds, is with us for 30 more minutes. We'll continue to talk about the Brewers as they look to make a run in October this year, and also some big picture thoughts on baseball. Rob Manfred had some thoughts on maybe some realignment across baseball earlier this week. We'll talk about that in the next 30 minutes. Jake Lyman, Jeff Hem, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Final hour on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, joined by the voice of the Nashville Sounds, Jeff Hem, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. 2 more segments with Jeff here as we dip in on the Nashville Sounds, who are starting a 2-week homestand. So if you want to get out to First Horizon Park, only 3 more weeks to do so. And 2 of them back-to-back here. Louisville starting tonight, Charlotte next week. So 12 games in 14 days to go out there and see the Sounds, which should be great.
Yep.
I believe I might be coming out sometime this week. We'll see. I'll always love going over to that park. It's easy to get to. It's always fun, and should be some good baseball.
Can I throw out 2
Go
super
ahead.
quick promo highlights for folks who are making their plans? Because I know the Titans play Friday night. We have fireworks on Friday. We also have fireworks on Saturday night because of a makeup from a previous homestand where they got rained out. So we got back-to-back fireworks Friday, Saturday. And then Sunday night is a Vanderbilt night where their new volleyball coach is going to come out and throw out the first pitch, Andrews Nelson. And there's a ticket bundle opportunity where folks can get a Sounds ticket, a co-branded Sounds and Vanderbilt hat, and a portion of those proceeds are going to go back to the National Commodore Club. So
Awesome.
Want Vandy fans to know that Sunday night is a kind of a Commodore opportunity to show pride for the Sounds and the Doors.
Definitely. Go out on Sunday night. And we actually had Coach Nelson on last week and talked to him as they restart that program for the first time in almost 50 years.
It's pretty cool.
And their season gets underway, I believe, next Friday.
Yes.
So that'll be fun. They're playing at Bridgestone, and they're playing out on Wyatt Lawn outside at Vanderbilt.
That's
so
awesome.
lots to look forward to there. The Brewers this season, we're just talking about best record in baseball, and there's a lot of quote unquote unsung heroes that maybe the casual baseball fan wouldn't know, but it is funny having, produced a bunch of your games and filled in for you. All these names came right through Nashville. I mean, you look at Caleb Durbin, Andrew Monasterio, Anthony Siegler was down a lot this year. Isaac Collins, I think, is one of the cooler ones. He came up through Nashville and has been an absolute star for this team this year. It's really cool to see all those guys stepping up.
Isaac Collins, we talk about Mizorowski, who has become a phenom and an all-star, and I think most MLB followers now know or have heard of Jacob Mizorowski. They probably still have not heard of Isaac Collins. And this is why I love AAA baseball. And this is one of the fun parts of the job in my situation, following it every day and getting to know some of the players and these stories. Last year on opening day, Isaac Collins literally was just happy to have not gone back to AA. He was not in the lineup every day, and he would play maybe once or twice a week, which is a tough role to then produce when you finally get to play. And he started to produce little by little, and he'd have a walk-off hit here, and then he'd get a start the next day and maybe get a hit or two. And by the end of May, Isaac Collins was at the point with the Sounds last year of this guy has to be in the lineup every day. He's just producing too well to not be in the lineup every day. By the end of the year, he was the co-MVP of the Sounds, got a brief big league chance last year, did okay, as you don't have high expectations for a late season guy going up first time, not going to play a lot. Makes the team this year out of spring training. And again, with the Brewers, it becomes a lot of the same thing of wow, we got to get this guy in there more. He's playing an amazing left field, which allows Christian Yelich to just be a DH, which is good for Yelich's back. And then Collins is just hitting and stealing bases and making diving catches. And now he's the NL Rookie of the Month, the reigning NL Rookie of the Month. I mean, a lot of the analytical information and common stats would show you he at least should be and maybe will be the National League Rookie of the Year. And he just personifies what the Brewers are. Because, yes, they've got a star in Yelich. They've got a star in Jackson Chourio. They won 14 games in a row without Chourio even in the lineup. He might be rehabbing with the Sounds at some point on this 2-week homestand. Reese Hoskins will be in there tonight for the Sounds on rehab. So the Brewers are getting some of these guys back, and they're still winning without him. But Isaac Collins, Caleb Durbin, opening day Sound, Division III player in college. And now is an everyday third baseman for the best team in baseball. And those stories are incredible, and they need to be told, but it also shows why the Brewers are the Brewers. They know what they want when they're looking for a player. And we talk about how it all mixes together to make this roster. They don't need Caleb Durbin to be Christian Yelich or Jackson Churio. They just need Durbin to be really good at what they need Durbin to do.
Yep.
And he's gotten enough runway as a big leaguer to do that. And Isaac Collins has gotten enough runway as a big leaguer to show that he can fit. Like, they've got the fit that is hard to find. And a lot of that comes from their melding in the front office of analytical information, the eye test, what the minor league guys have seen from these players, what they think they can do. And you have to combine those things. And the Brewers, that's why I say the Brewers seem to have that secret sauce of all the ingredients, not just the, wow, it's the David versus Goliath payroll. The payroll is an easy and appropriate topic to discuss,
Yep.
but they've got all the other stuff, regardless of what the investments might be. You still need the mix, and that's where they seem to have the kind of the market cornered on how to do that really, really well.
And you mentioned Jackson Churio possibly rehabbing down here over the next couple of weeks. One of the biggest disappointments for me was that he only spent 1 week in Nashville.
I know.
He came up for the last week of the season in 2023.
Yep.
And then made the big league
That's
team
right.
out of spring training in 2024.
That's
so
right.
Nashville fans finally get another
I know,
opportunity
I
to see
know.
Jackson
We
Churio.
count him as a former Sound, but it was brief. If you blinked, you missed it.
Right. Yes. Joey from Bellevue on our text line asked, when can I bring my dog to a Sounds game? I believe tonight. It is a
Tonight and
Tito's
next
Tail Wagging
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yep, we got 3 Tito's Tail Wagging Tuesdays left, so tonight is your night.
There you
what was
go.
it, Joey?
Joey from Bellevue.
Tonight's
Yeah,
your night, Joey. Tonight, and all the dog ticket proceeds tonight will benefit Old Friends Senior Dog Sanctuary. And then next Tuesday and the final Tuesday are also Tito's Tail Wagging Tuesdays.
Perfect. So, Joey, if you can make it tonight, great. Next Tuesday against Charlotte as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to chime in, you can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We have one more segment with Jeff Hamm, the voice of the Nashville Sounds. We're going to talk some bigger picture baseball stuff and wrap things up on the other side. Jake Lyman, Jeff Hamm, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Here you go again.
What's that?
You're Next man up, 1025 The Game. Final segment with Jeff Hem here. We've got you up until the top of the hour. Chase and Big Joe will be coming up at noon. We'll have some Titans thoughts from practice to wrap up the show as they are out there at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park right now. But wrapping things up with the voice of the Nashville Sounds, Jeff Hem. The Brewers, the best record in baseball. And I think my favorite part about October is that, you know, we were saying earlier the payroll, and you can look David versus Goliath, but baseball is just one of those sports with it's a round ball, it's a round bat. You have no idea what could happen, especially in a 3-game series, a 5-game series.
Yes.
And that's what makes it great. I think hockey is the only other sport that has that randomness to it. Like football, there are upsets in the playoffs, but typically the better team ends up winning. Same thing with basketball. Baseball and hockey, it's like, if you get into the dance, you've got a chance to go all the way.
And that's why the goal is to get in the dance. That's the goal. And then within that, if you can build it the way the Brewers are trending, win the division, which helps for home field. Then from there, try to have one of the best 2 records in your league, which to me, that's the biggest thing that this 14-game winning streak the Brewers recently had got them some breathing room, not just from the Cubs in their division, but I think I wrote it down on Sunday when we were broadcasting, I think that by 8 games, they had the best record in the National League over the Phillies. So you're likely to get the 5-game series than the 3-game series, which is where the Brewers got eliminated last year, even though they had won their division.
Right.
So, yeah, and then I love the argument of like, well, is it better to just be hot at the end and ride that momentum and keep going? I'm in the camp of rest my guys a little bit at the end, not fully pull off the gas pedal, but line up the starting pitching the way you want it. Know it's going to be in your stadium, because I don't know that momentum always works that way in baseball the way it could in another sport. And so the Brewers are setting themselves up to make sure that they could have a Freddie Peralta, Brandon Woodruff, Jacob Mizorowski 3 rotation, which is pretty formidable there.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So, and be at home. So I agree with you. I think the regular season guarantees you nothing except a spot in the dance, but you still want your spot in the dance to be a certain way if you can get it. And that's how the Brewers are trending right now.
Well, the first couple years of this new playoff format with the wild card 3-game series, the teams that got the buys kept losing. And people were saying, is it a disadvantage to get a bye? Well, then last year, 3 of the 4 teams who made it to the championship series were the teams that got the bye.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think there is something to, can you get hot at the right time? But last year, not to go back to the Tigers, but the Tigers were the hottest team in baseball. They rolled right through the Astros in the wild card series, but the Guardians, who had the rest, were able to win that 5-game series in the DS. So I think getting that bye is definitely huge. On Sunday, during the Little League Classic, Rob Manfred mentioned a possible realignment of baseball. And they've been talking about expanding. And if you expand, you do have to change the way the divisions are formatted. Would you be in favor of a geographic realignment where maybe you've got both New York teams in the same division, and maybe the National League and the American League, I don't want to say cease to exist, but change in a big way? Maybe you do go to an East and a West conference or league. It seems like that would be the path if you add 2 more teams to go to the NFL format of 8 divisions of 4 instead of 6 divisions of 5.
I don't like it at first blush. And then reading about it a little bit more of what it would look like, I still don't like it.
I'm not a huge fan either.
I would need what's the goal here? I'm kind of asking rhetorically. I know that Rob Manfred brought up an example of like if the Red Sox and Anaheim are playing each other, like the travel of that is far. And if you're the Red Sox and first pitch is at like 10:10 Eastern time or whatever, is that great for the fan or whatever? It sounded like that was at least one example that was brought up. I didn't see the full interview that he had during that broadcast, but so it's kind of what I would ask about the International League schedule to circle it back to the Sounds. What's the goal here? And does it sound cool to have the Yankees and the Mets in the same division? I guess, but some of those other divisions look a little weird too. I saw one that would have like the Rockies and the Royals were in the same division as like the Rangers and would it be the Astros, I guess it was. So it's like, what's the goal here? I don't know. I think And then within that, like, how many games and are you still playing everybody? And so you're still going to have some of that, like, well, the Mariners have to go fly to play the Marlins at some point. Right now, they do it every other year. Now they still have to go to Tampa to play the Rays. But I like the way MLB has done it where everybody plays everybody, because I think for a long time, interleague play was a novelty, and that made it really cool. I remember those first years of like, wow, the Cubs and the White Sox are going to play each other in the regular season. That's odd. That makes it cool. Now that's gone on long enough that, like, I like that they've expanded it where you play every team at least a series every year. It means a little bit less divisional games. And I think the division should matter the most. So even if it's realigned, my hope would be that they still mostly play their own division, but I can't imagine they're going to get away from everybody playing everybody at least once. Then,
Right.
So then I circle back to like, well,
What's the point?
Won't you still create situations where schedule wise it's not ideal? I don't know how about, I mean, we have to, I think it comes back to like, what was baseball like when you were 9, 10, 11, 12 years old? I think that the fan in us always reverts back to what it was at that age for us. For me, that was early to mid 90s. And there wasn't interleague play yet. And even because I grew up in Illinois, even the Cubs going to play the Dodgers, when the Cubs would come on at 9:00 at night, Dodger Stadium was this far off land, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Like that was cool to me. That was a novelty. So what I'm saying is, I think, what will this new format mean for the young fan and breeding the game properly to the next generations? What is the goal here? And if the next format is going to help that, then I understand. But if it's for other reasons that maybe isn't best for the game, in air quotes, I just want to know what we're trying to accomplish here. I think certain matchups, like I said, Red Sox, Angels, like, okay, the game comes on at 10:00 for a Red Sox fan. Is that great? Not really, but it's also like kind of cool because that doesn't happen very often.
Right.
And sometimes we need a little bit of novelty in the game instead of, well, let's try to create this situation where we play the team that's closest by, and then all of a sudden Yankees Mets is like not as cool anymore.
Right. The Subway Series becomes common.
Yes.
Instead of
Yes.
it happens once, maybe twice a year.
Yeah. I just want to know what the goal is. And with this initial story kind of being dangled there,
right,
I kind of think I know what the goal is, but I'm not sure. And realignment on its own doesn't make me go, yeah, absolutely. Now, I will also give credit to Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball where it's due, because I'll hear them out on this one, because they've earned that from some other things in the game that have been better over the last few years. The pitch clocks are amazing. The challenge system that we've had at AAA that I think is 99% going to go to big league ball next year is great. I like the pick. I like the disengagement limitations, great base running again, base stealing. So it's really easy to be like, whatever MLB does, I disagree. Like that's been people on planting that flag at times in the last 10, 20 years.
For sure.
There are a lot of things that they've done in the last several years that I think are great and were needed and they deserve credit for. So I'll put up a hand and say, tell me more about this realignment,
right,
and not just make it a hard no, but on its face, I'm not sure I know what the goal is right now.
I think this is a great point because I'm a college football junkie. So I think about this in college football terms. The decisions that are being made in the sport, one, do they have the player's best interest in mind? And two, the fan, because you bring up the novelty of the fan. And what about the younger fans? How can we engage them more? I think this is a phenomenal point because I think there are so many decisions that are made, especially in college football, that don't have the fans' best interest in mind.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think, didn't Manfred, I keep going back to this Red Sox Angels thing that got brought up, like, is the travel tougher for the players after that series? No doubt about it. They probably go from Seattle to San Francisco, or they're probably, if they're going out there somewhere, it's part of a 9-game road trip or whatever, and they eventually make their way back to Boston. The big league guys also travel amazingly well.
There's some luxury
involved. So like, I just kind of want to know what the goal is. And I do agree that if they ever expanded, you'd need to factor in the literal locations of those cities relative to whatever division they would go into. And if that's what's creating this idea of, well, here's our chance to realign, some realignment may be needed, but I don't know that anybody is screaming for these current divisions that got laid out there. Is there demand for that? To me, it's kind of like, expanding the NCAA tournament. It's like, well, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
It's a very good point.
So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at.
No, I'm kind of with you too. Of like, I think I was one of the people. I wasn't the firm. This is a bad idea when they banned the shift and the pitch clock and all this stuff. And I think it's been good, but I also was a little hesitant to agree with that. I think I'm in the same spot here, but if they do it, I will be open-minded to see if it actually works out.
I didn't like the third wild card team a couple years ago because I thought, how many are you going to get in? Like half the league gets into the playoffs. But I like that. And I also felt like, all right, that third division winner kind of gets screwed a little bit by it's like winning your division should matter. If you're playing 162 games, most of which are against these other teams, doing the best at that should matter the most.
I agree.
I've come around a little bit on the third wildcard team because I like the idea of the top 2 division winners getting right to that division series because they're recognized for being the best among the division winners. So it kind of sits on the fence enough for me that I've come around on that third wildcard team. And again, that's why I say a lot of what Major League Baseball has done the last few years, I think has been good, whether it's for the fan, whether it's for the player, whether it's for both. The pitch clock has been amazing. It's just a better product.
Agreed.
And so like, I'll give them tell me more about this realignment. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I just want to know what the goal within that is. What are you wanting to accomplish? And that's what'll tell me. I think your current schedule may already do that enough. Maybe it doesn't.
We'll see what happens. I'm sure it's still a few years away, but again, I'm kind of with you. Open-minded, but going to need a little bit more information about what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Jeff, really appreciate you coming by. It's been fun to chat baseball sounds for the last hour, and excited 2 straight weeks over at First Horizon Park coming up here for the Sounds. 2 of the final 3 home series of the season.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Love your show. Love what you're doing here. I'm proud of how you're growing, man. It's really been cool to see as I've gotten to know you over the last several years. So thanks for having me. And home for 2 weeks. So catch the Sounds while you can, folks.
Appreciate it, Jeff. Jeff Hem, voice of the Nashville Sounds, 6:35 first pitch. And if you want to tune in, 6:20 over on 94.9 The Fan tonight. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. We'll give you some updates from Titans practice coming up next. You're on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Final half hour of the show on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Great to have Jeff Hem in studio for the last hour, voice of the Nashville Sounds. Got to talk some Sounds baseball as they're in town for 2 straight weeks. The Brewers, their parent club, the best record in baseball, and baseball in general, with maybe some big changes coming down the stretch. Getting back into the Titans here. And actually, first, before we get to Titans practice updates, I did want to say we saw on ESPN here in studio about an hour ago, right before Jeff came on, Daniel Jones has been named the starter for the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson benched to start his 3rd season in the NFL. Parker, I mean, we saw Bryce Young, who was in his draft class, get benched last year and came back and looked a lot better. But it's hard not to think that that might be it for Anthony Richardson in a Colts uniform.
Jake, I got to be honest. I don't root for anybody to lose their job, because there's a human element to this game.
Oh, yeah.
But I have been on top of this since I was in college, telling people, hey, Anthony Richardson, phenomenal athlete, big arm, fast, built in a lab. I just do not see how it is going to translate to the football field at the professional level. And I've been telling people this for a while, and I think that people are starting to finally see. Now, this may be it for his time in Indy. He may go on and do something somewhere else. But as of right now, it looks pretty grim as far as his future in Indianapolis is concerned.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that he's going to I mean, he's definitely not the long-term solution there anymore. And like Shane Steichen,
they told us that by this move.
Right. I mean, you start Daniel Jones, who's a guy who's already been given up on by the Giants over Anthony Richardson, who you picked 4th overall 2 years ago. I think that shows you that they're looking to move on. Anthony Richardson, Shane Steichen says Anthony Richardson knows that he's only 1 play away from taking over as a starting quarterback, and that's fine. But there's a difference between coming in as an injury replacement and being the starting quarterback for a National Football League team. And I wouldn't be shocked if Richardson is traded. I mean, you're not going to trade him now, I guess, but next year, maybe you could get like a 5th or a 6th round pick for Anthony Richardson at this point, maybe a 3rd or 4th if there's teams desperate enough. But it's been a wild downhill spiral for Anthony Richardson since being drafted 4th overall in 2023. We do have some updates from Titans practice, thanks to our friend Connor Newt. He's out there at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park right now. He says the offensive line has looked solid today. Cam Ward, these are back-to-back tweets. They are 15 minutes apart. Connor tweets, Cam Ward has been excellent threading the needle today. And then Cam Ward, not good with the deep ball today. So I guess maybe some of the intermediate stuff over the middle has been good, but hasn't been able to hit the long ones. Did hit Chim Dike for a 40-yard gain, but was picked off by Jalen Kimber on an underthrow while he was under pressure. So some updates there. Cam Ward did throw an interception after, I believe it was yesterday, he did not throw a pick, which I get it's a low bar for looking for practices where Cam Ward doesn't throw an interception. But it looks like he has thrown an interception today. Some good, some bad, and we'll have to hear some of the big picture takeaways from the reporters out there at practice when practice does wrap up. I'm sure we'll get the long Teron Davenport tweets coming up in a second. We did hear from Brian Callahan ahead of practice, and he talked about the Jeffrey Simmons and Cam Ward scuffle, and we gave our thoughts on it. Brian Callahan downplayed it, and when Paul Kaharski asked about maybe throwing Jeffrey Simmons out of practice, Brian Callahan got a little fiery and talked about how he doesn't understand where this whole throwing players out of practice came from, that he's never seen a player thrown out of a training camp practice. And I think that may be exaggerating. I'm sure there has been a time when Brian Callahan was a coach and has seen a player thrown out of a training camp practice, but he was clearly adamant that whatever happened yesterday did not escalate to the point where Jeffrey Simmons needed to be thrown out. And I get it. But I'm also, I'm a little bit concerned about, like Jeffrey Simmons does continue to get himself involved in these things. And like you said, Parker, it's like, at what point are we going to start to see the maturity? I get it. He's a passionate player. He plays with energy, and Cam Ward did provoke him. Not like Cam Ward went after him, but at some point, Jeffrey Simmons needs to stop retaliating and getting involved in these because he's going to do it in a game. He's going to hurt the team and get a penalty at a bad point in the game. And this just can't continue to happen to a guy who is supposed to be a leader on your football team.
Yeah, and I wasn't out there, so I don't know the intent. But if I had to guess, my guess would be they've been doing this all offseason. So who's to say that Cam Ward wasn't being playful in this interaction and then Jeffrey Simmons took it the wrong way? But when it's the same person, it's a common denominator. When it's the same person starting or in the middle of all these fights, usually it has something wrong to do with you. And it bothers me because if this guy is viewed as a captain, a leader by others, that's not who I would want in my captain.
Right. It's fine. The tempers are going to flare at points in training camp, and we've seen it throughout training camp in the joint practices. There's been fights, and I know like last week, the Atlanta media and Atlanta fans made a huge deal out of the fight the Titans started surrounding Michael Penix, which no one around here really thought was a big deal. But it always seems to include Jeffrey Simmons. And you start to wonder, is this a Jeffrey Simmons problem as he gets into year 8 in the league? 19,
Yeah,
8, 7 or 8, something like that. So you're the longest tenured Titan, right? It's him and Amani Hooker who were in that same draft class. Like, you've got to be a leader. You can't be getting involved in this stuff, even though I understand like Cam Ward asked for it, but you got to take the high road in those situations, especially when it involves your quarterback. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Last call for phones. Chase and Big Joe are coming up at the top of the hour. I have a couple NFL news and notes I want to get to from yesterday. And also we'll continue to look for updates from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park as the Titans are on the practice field right now. We'll give you those as we get them. Some thoughts on the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation as Joe Flacco was named the starting quarterback yesterday by Kevin Stefanski, and also one of the great nicknames in all of sports. We'll get to that coming up next as we wrap up the show. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final segment on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Joined earlier in the show by Nick Frazier and Jeff Ham, the voice of the Nashville Sounds. Dr. Crane, Nick Frazier will be with us again tomorrow from 9 to noon. Excited for that. Also, for those who've asked, Teron Davenport will be in on Tuesdays for the most part. But today with the Titans on the practice field, he had to flip things around. So he'll be with us on Thursday for the full show. Excited to talk to TD after a full week of Titans practice. A couple of odds and ends I want to get to before we wrap up the show. First, Matthew in Nashville on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, says, technically, Jake, Morgan Cox is the longest tenured Titan. That is not true. He joined the Titans in 2021. Yes, he's been in the league since 2010, but the longest tenured Titan in terms of player who has been on the Titans roster the longest, I believe it's Jeff Simmons and Amani Hooker, part of that 2019 class. The 2018 class, Landry was in that class, but that's it. So yeah, I believe that is correct that Simmons and Hooker are the longest tenured Titans. Couple other things. Parker, I just saw this during the commercial break, and I don't know if you saw this. Have you seen the announcement that Auburn made today?
That all three quarterbacks are going to play versus Baylor?
No, not that. That they are claiming new national championships.
4 new ones?
Yes,
or something?
they're claiming 4 new national championships that I guess have come from different polls, including 2004. They're claiming that the Darryl Perry and GBE college football ratings had them as the best team in the country. So therefore, they're claiming the 2004 national championship. I don't know how that's possible.
I guess they took a note out of UCF's book.
I mean, I understand some of the like I think some of the new ones they claimed were like 1910. Sure. You can claim 1910 if you want to do that. Because back then it was a little bit vague on who won the national championship. But in 2004, USC won the national championship game. Correct? Like, yeah, they won the BCS national championship game. So in a year where there was a BCS national championship game, can you actually claim a title that isn't that one?
I wouldn't.
I don't think you should. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was ludicrous that Auburn is now claiming 9 national championships.
And they made the move to Nike as well over the offseason. Look at that.
I believe the only ones that actually did they only claim 1957 and 2010? Like, were those the only two? Maybe they claimed a couple others.
As I understood it, yes.
So Auburn is claiming 9, as they call it, deserving and legitimate college football national championships. So there you go. The Auburn Tigers setting a record. They've won 4 national championships today. Couple other things. The Browns naming Joe Flacco their starting quarterback. No surprise there. The one surprise I saw, I believe it was Adam Schefter reporting that the Browns might carry all 4 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster. I don't know how you do that without sacrificing depth in other places. Like, cut Kenny Pickett. Cut him. Like, if Joe Flacco gets hurt, at that point, your season's not going to be very good anyway. Let the rookies play. And you can bring in a Snoop Huntley or something like that as your backup if you have to. But start Joe Flacco when things go south, which you can pretty much assume they're going to. Put in Shedeur Sanders, put in Dylan Gabriel, whoever you think has the best chance to be successful at the NFL level. But why keep Kenny Pickett if you're starting Joe Flacco?
You got to keep the rookies because you drafted them for a reason. And who knows, maybe one of them will be the future of your franchise.
Right.
I think you drafted Dylan Gabriel before Shedeur.
Well, right. If you cut Dylan Gabriel, you just set a 3rd-round pick on fire for no reason. And if you cut Shedeur Sanders, there's going to be pitchforks and torches outside of your facility for the next 6 months.
And Joe Flacco is a good bridge quarterback to have. So it makes the most sense to, if you're going to cut, obviously Huntley's gone, but if you're going to keep 3, then it would make sense to cut Kenny Pickett.
Right. So I don't know. I guess they're going to keep Kenny Pickett. So Pickett would be the backup, and then one of the rookies could be your emergency 3rd, and the other one's just going to be a healthy scratch every single week. I don't get what's going on there in Cleveland. Maybe they don't either, and they're just hoping that they can, go get whoever the top quarterback in the draft is next year. If it's Arch Manning, if it's Garrett Nussmeier, whoever it may be that comes out. Last thing I have to wrap up the show. How much of the Monday Night Football game did you watch yesterday, Parker?
Pretty much the whole thing.
You watched all of Bengals?
It got my juices flowing, man. Just hearing how hyped that crowd was, especially in the first quarter, it felt like football.
I got to say, watching Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels play each other, both LSU guys, both Heisman winners, like it was fun to watch. And I didn't watch the full game, but my favorite thing I learned from last night's game is the nickname for Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt.
Yes.
Bill. What?
Have you heard his story? His story is wild,
yes.
by the way.
And it's funny because he might be the highest riser in fantasy football drafts. I've been seeing people taking him in like the 3rd round. He's a 7th round pick. And Brian Robinson is being floated in trade discussions because
he's
of him.
holding out or holding in right now, rather.
And I will quickly say, I saw Bleacher Report propose the Titans trade for Brian Robinson and give up a 4th and a 6th round pick. Like, Tajay Spears has a high ankle sprain. He's not missing the whole season.
Everybody that hits the market, the Titans should trade for, right?
Right. I mean, that's how it is. Anybody who's available, Titans fans want to go get, whatever. But I cannot believe that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's nickname is Bill. It's I think they might have explained where it came from, but it just makes me laugh.
It kind of makes sense because it's such a complicated name to say, especially if you're a broadcaster.
Right.
So go with something simple. Bill.
JCM. No, just Bill.
Just Bill. It's simple, rolls off the tongue, 1 syllable.
Bill. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Apparently he's a big sleeper. I saw people were taking him over Tony Pollard in fantasy drafts. So
hey, that's not my team. They can do whatever they want.
If he's a bust and he doesn't end up working out, then I think there are going to be some very angry fantasy owners over there. Titans are wrapping up practice out there at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Make sure you keep it tuned right here. Chase and Big Joe are going to have all your updates as we continue to get updates. Teron Davenport reporting J.C. Latham went inside early today after the individual period. So something to keep an eye on there. Let's see. Did TD put out? He did. We'll wrap up the show with TD's notes. No Calvin Ridley, no Tavondre Sweat, no Kevin Winston. A lot of sled work for the offensive line. TD says he's going to start calling his little corner with all the sleds and gadgets Callywood. Kind of like that. Again, Latham went in after the individual period. Let's see. Ward with a back shoulder throw to Van Jefferson, beat Jarvis Brownlee Jr. Ward found Iamaner on a crossing route, but he dropped it. Iamaner, opportunity to take the starting X spot, can't have the drops. Ward to Van Jefferson deep, and then the interception from Desmond Ward on a throw to Chig, intercepted by Jalen Kimber and Joey Sly to wrap things up. Good from 33, 37, 42, 45, and 49. So there are some quick practice updates from Titans training camp. Chase and Big Joe will give you all the updates of anything notable that happened out there at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. That'll just about do it for us. Big thanks to Nick Frazier and Jeff Hem, the voice of the Nashville Sounds, for joining us earlier on in the show. Again, Sounds at home for 2 weeks, so you can either go out to the park or listen into Jeff Hem over there on 94.9 The Fan. Tomorrow, Nick Frazier with us for the full show. We'll talk Titans, we'll talk college football, and Teron Davenport will be with us on Thursday. For Parker Kelly, I'm Jake Lyman signing off. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next here on 102.5 The Game.